What type of cost is going to come with that? Getting rid of the turbines now that they've already been embedded in our system for so long now.
So I remember I was behind the scenes. I had pushed PCMPPs and leaderships to talk about these wind turbines, and I'd laid out in the past, historically, before anybody who knew who Jim Corhalios was. I did all the research, the legal side, the side on in terms of the numbers from the grid, and then the money side. I pulled it all together. And when you look at what's out there, one thing I'll say is really funny. In both leaderships that Christine Elliott was running in, anytime someone brought up wind turbines, she'd say, oh, we can't do that. We can't take down wind turbines because it's going to send the bad signal to the business community, right? But once they were in power, boy, they figured out how to shut down businesses real fast, right? Like, no problem. So if you're an international big money developer that wants to put your money into wind turbines, that creates a banana republic in Ontario because a few people are getting money out of it, but the rest of us are paying the bill, right? That's the definition of a banana republic. When your entire population has to pay with no added benefit to them for a service they don't want, for a few people at the top to become millionaires. That's a banana republic. And Christine Elliott and the PCs would say, no, we can't do that. Can't do that. But when it came to COVID, they figured out real fast how you could shut down small and medium-sized businesses. There was no rhetoric or concern about what the business community would think, right? So I thought that I'd point out that contradiction. That was pretty funny. Sad, actually, not funny if you have a business. But in hindsight, so here's how you break down the law. I'm going to give credit where credit's due, and this Professor Bruce Party out of Queens. He's looked up this stuff. I don't know if he supports the New Blue. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he thinks that the PC party should survive. That's fine. But he's done the research on this stuff, and he's written from a academic perspective the first point, which is on the law. And taking down the wind turbines is not like Dalton McGuinty canceling the gas plant in Oakville. And let me explain to you why. When the gas plant in Oakville became a political liability for McGuinty, he wanted to get rid of it without bringing a bill to the legislature and to redo the law. So he got his minister to sign a directive. We're getting really technical here, but it's like a minister takes a pen, signs a piece of paper, says contract canceled. And because he did it that way, the cancellation provisions in that contract kicked in and they had to pay the penalty. But you guys all know this principle out of the parliamentary system. No future government, no current government can bind a future government into legislation that a future government can't take away. It's a basic principle of the parliamentary system. A current government can't pass a law that says for 50 years this law can't be changed, right? Yeah. That's undemocratic, against the parliamentary system, because Parliament reigns supreme. So when it comes to provincial jurisdiction, the Ontario legislature reigns supreme. And so these 20 or 30-year contracts that we have for these wind turbines that are a rip-off, if a government passed a piece of legislation saying they would come down or canceled, it would overrule any of the contracts that are signed. There's nothing that those holders of those contracts of the wind turbines could do in court. They could go to court, they would lose, because it's entirely up to the provincial government to decide future policy or current policy. You can't lock them in from a contract that exists 20 or 30 years. And if they did that in a transparent way, they could cancel and take down the wind turbines, and they could decide what, if any, compensation goes to the farmers who've got to they've got to take the wind turbine out of the ground. The few farmers in Ontario that have them on their property and are getting money out of it, you could pay to have their farm rehabilitated. You can decide if you want to give some compensation to the developers or the big companies that put them up. But once that's done and you take them offline, the wind turbines make up like 5% of the grid, but 25% plus of the price of electricity. And we're producing more electricity than we need and then dumping it into the US on pennies of the dollar. So the electricity price would come down hard if we got those things away. And the compensation, if the government decided what compensation would be far less than what we're paying, both in terms of the government subsidy for those electricity rates right now, and what the consumer's paying, because we all know there's only one taxpayer, what the consumer pays. So it makes sense, like in terms of money, it makes sense. It makes sense in terms of kickstarting our economy and getting that GDP to grow beyond the pathetic 1% that it's been at for years with the Liberals and the PCs. It's the only way to get manufacturing back. It's the only way to bring electricity rates down without taxpayer subsidization. And there's a legal solution. And we've got to put it all together, and that's what the New Blue Party is doing, and bringing it to the narrative of politics.